Someone stole $9 million from me. So it all began when I first started my journey in entrepreneurship. And what happened was, right, I started to take action. Like we're told by all these gurus, right? Just take action. Do more. Hustle. Right? And I was doing that. I was working hard. And what happened was, I started to make my first few $1,000s. Then it went to 10,000. And then 30,000. And it took me all the way to the point where I made my first $1 million online. And it was in that moment that I realized someone had literally stolen $9 million from me. And that person, when I found out who they were, I was shocked. I was shocked. I couldn't believe someone so close to me would do something like that to me. So how they were stealing money from me was like this, yeah? That's how it went down. There was this entry point that they had access to 90% of my money, my earning potential, all of these things, right? And they were secretly just taking money every day without me knowing. So when I would make $1, I could be making $10. Once I discovered this, my whole business transformed. So, how was they doing this? Well, first of all, who was they? Who was the person stealing this money? You know who it was? Have a guess. Have a guess who this person was stealing money from me. You won't believe it. This person was me, myself. And the way I was stealing money from myself is because when I started off in business, I was only using 10% of my power, because this is your conscious mind. Okay? Your conscious mind is the logical mind. Yeah? It's the mind that uses willpower and discipline. Right? But this part of your mind, your subconscious mind, is 90% of how you operate. Okay? Subconscious is 90% of how you operate. Now, there's 3 key components of the subconscious you need to understand, right? That are inside of it. 1 is your beliefs. Number 2 is your emotions. And then number 3 is your habits. All right? These are the 3 components that make up the subconscious mind. Your beliefs, your emotions, and your habits. Now, if I just break this down for you to make it even more simple, it's how you think, it's how you feel, and it's how you act. Understanding that your thoughts are energy, this is very important to understand. Your thoughts are literally energy, and your thoughts create things. Your thoughts convert into emotions, right? Energy in motion is what emotions are, which creates motion. So here's what you need to understand. Your mind, your subconscious mind, is a goal-seeking mechanism. All right? So whatever you impress into your mind will be expressed. So when I was starting my business journey, right? I was only tapping into 10% of my power. I was just using discipline, force, grind, pushing, right? But what I discovered is there's an easier way. So 10% is where you're gonna be forcing it, right? You're gonna be pushing, you're gonna be grinding. The 90%, when you use the powers of the subconscious mind, you're gonna be in a flow. It's still gonna be challenging, there's still gonna be things you have to do, but it's gonna be effort required, not struggle, right? You're gonna be pulled toward your goals rather than pushing. I want you to imagine a time in your business journey where things were just flowing. There was none of that internal resistance. There was none of those blocks. There was none of those things that were just holding you back from stepping fully in to that next chapter of your business career. That is when you start tapping in to the subconscious mind. And the reason why I say that I was losing so much money is because I now understand that my subconscious mind is 90% of how I operate. So let's take it back to when I started my business journey. The way you need to think about your mind, and the best analogy I give people, is like a muscle, right? So when your mind has limiting beliefs, right? When it has lower frequency emotions in there, and when it has bad habits, right? Just question for yourself right now and think about this, yeah? With the beliefs that you have, right? With the lower frequency emotions you have, with the bad habits that you have, which collectively form what I call the mind system, right? How much is this actually costing you in your business? Think about it. What beliefs do you have? Like, you can even pause the video. Just think about what beliefs you currently have that you know are slowing you down in business, right? Think about that. Think about the lower emotions you operate from. Maybe it could be fear, it could be shame, it could be guilt, it could be apathy, right? How much is that costing you in your business? Think about the bad habits that you have. These will probably be the most obvious for you guys at first, because this is where most people look. They look at this, but this is the last step of the equation. It goes 1 beliefs, 2 emotions, 3 habits, right? Think, feel, act. It always begins at the thought level. But how much are your bad habits costing you? Just think about that for a moment. If you could change these, right? Let's say a current limiting belief you have, and you could change that for an empowering belief. Let's say for the lower emotions you could have, you could replace them for positive ones. Let's say for bad habits, you could replace them for positive ones. Let's just say you could do that. Imagine that reality where that is true. You have more empowering beliefs. You have more elevated emotions. You have better habits. So let's just say, for example, the belief that you would change would be, let's just say, for example, business is hard, and you deep down believe that, or making money is hard. And you change the belief, and you have to understand that a belief, guys, a belief is not true in itself. It becomes true in our experience if we believe it. This is such a big lesson, right? A belief becomes true in itself if we believe it, and you can choose your beliefs. When you are born, you don't have any beliefs. They are all learned. And understand as well that your beliefs, okay, they drive your behavior. Because like we mentioned before, emotion is energy in motion, right? Which creates motion and action. So if you could change these things, which, good news, you can. You can literally reprogram your mind. If you could change this, or I should say when you change this, how much more money would you make in your business? How much more money would you make in your business? So let's break this down even more, all right? Let's actually break this down. So how we break this down, how we change this, is we need to install a new program. Now, how we have to do this, guys, is there's two major steps in this, right? You have to first of all become aware of your current self, your current reality. How do you currently think? How do you currently feel? And how do you currently act? If you do not become aware of the old, you cannot make room for the new. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will control your life and you'll call it fate, right? You have to become aware of your current self. You have to do this by understanding the quote, questions open the mind, statements close the mind. You have to ask questions around this, okay? So you'd be like, what do I currently think? How do I currently feel? How am I currently acting? Right? And just by bringing awareness to these things, I can promise you right now, is going to transform your business. There has been times in my business where, and there's videos on this channel, right? One of my most underrated videos is something, I can't remember the specific title, but it's like, I asked these 4 questions and I took my business from 19,000 to something. I can't remember, but it's on this channel. So I recommend you go and watch that. The channel's intention is to put more quality over quantity, so you'll be able to find it. But just by asking questions, you're going to bring awareness to this. Awareness is the first step to change. The reason why people can't change is because they're in a program and they never become aware of that program. Once you do that, then you start to get clear on the new reality of how you would think, feel, and act. So you start to say, well, how would this version of me who's making $1 million a month, how would they think? How would they feel? How would they act? Who would they be? Because be is your identity. Identity means repeated beingness. From being, we do. From doing, we have. This is why you can take all the action you want. But if your mind is set, this is why I say mindset is the key, because it is literally what it says in the word, mindset. If your mind is set on failing, fear, let's just keep it simple because we have 2 core emotions, fear and love. If your mind is set on fear, where focus goes, energy flows, you will move towards that. It doesn't matter how hard you try, how much you push, you will by default go to that. And this is why I try to tell these entrepreneurs, right, that don't listen to me. I try to tell them, listen, bro, you can be winning. You could be making a lot of money, yeah? But this is a golden question for you. How do you actually define success? Because if your only metric for success is money, but you are working 12-hour days and you're burned out and you can't actually live the life you want, are you really winning? Are you really successful? Or did you just create a prison based off of your beliefs, based off how you think it should go? There was once this entrepreneur I was speaking to, right? He was making around $100,000 a month. He bought his dream car. Something else he achieved, right? But here was the problem. He was working 12-hour days. He was burned out, right? He was working with shit clients. And this is the real kicker. He set up his business because he thought money would allow him to get a girlfriend. But during the process of growing his business, he got fat. And he didn't have the courage or confidence to go and speak to girls. Wow. What started this was the way he thinks. It's very simple. My teachings are simple because life is simple. Everything begins at the thought level. If you want to change your life, you have to change the way you think. You have to change the way you think. If you do not change the way you think about stuff, then this thought will transmute or transfer into feelings and then proceed to actions. This is what I'm saying to you guys. You might be successful right now, but I know you successful entrepreneurs watching this, yeah? You know there's another level. You're like, how do I get to that level? It's mindset, bro. It's very obvious, it's mindset. So hit that link in the description. I'm doing a free masterclass. It might have already been hosted. There'll be a link in the description for you to work further with me. You know you need to. I'll see you soon. God bless.